Hello friends, Jay-Z here. It is Tuesday, September 3rd, 2013, and this is Flashpoint Radio. Thank you very much for joining me on tonight's edition of Flashpoint. Well, we look at Syria. Obviously, things have changed since last week. It's up in the air as to what action will be taken by the Western powers. But one thing's for certain, at least in my mind, something will happen. I guess it just got put off until next week. And at the end of the episode, I will give my long shot theory onto what all this means or what this is covering for. But we'll start this evening with this article out of the UK from the Mirror. Britain will not bomb Syria after David Cameron suffers historic parliamentary defeat. With his authority in tatters, the PM immediately climbed down and said Britain would not be going to war alongside America. Turns out that this was the first time in over 200 years that the British Parliament has voted against a Prime Minister's suggestion or request to go to war. So the British government, at least its representative arm of its government, has said no, which hopped across the pond to this country and has pushed President Obama in, well, a direction he probably did not want to take. From Infowars.com, under colossal global backlash, Obama holds off on Syria strike. So after Great Britain, their parliament voted against going to war in Syria, our president said, okay, I'll go ahead and ask Congress for approval, while at the same time saying, I don't need to ask Congress for approval, but I will go and do it as a piecemeal offering, I suppose. And, John Kerry came out and said he doesn't actually have to do that for us to do anything. But Congress has been told that they are to debate this issue. I believe the debate is the end of this week, and a vote will not come until next week, which leaves a wide open door for a new false flag attack in Syria or some other event that they can use to trump up support for this war. The president's administration put out a draft resolution for military intervention, which he would like Congress to look at and vote on next week. And one legal scholar, Harvard Law School professor Jack Goldsmith, Paul Joseph Watson reports, he says that attack resolution authorizes boots on the ground. He said there would be no boots on the ground. This would be a quick precision strike, but this law professor says malarkey. This resolution that Congress will vote on is going to authorize boots on the ground. And why not? We've got this from Drudge Report. Boehner supports Obama military action in Syria. Cantor jumps aboard. We already know John McCain and old Lindsey Graham support it. So it looks like the Republicans might be joining up with our old communist socialist buddy Obama to undertake some military action. This is when things get very dangerous, especially in this country, when you have a perceived choice between two sides, Democrat and Republican, and then you have people who are disenfranchised from both sides. When those two entrenched parties decide to triangulate, combine forces, and focus their power on those that disagree with both of them, that's when things really get dangerous. That's when a regime really starts to teeter on the brink of collapse, tyranny. Many other options come to the table, but none of them pretty. It really looks like the power elite in this country are mobilizing against the people, against their own military. Things are not looking good. There have been a lot of military members, active and former military members, posting photos, posting things on their Facebook pages, on their Twitter accounts. Basically, I think the hashtag is I didn't join. Hashtag I didn't join. I didn't join the army to fight alongside Al-Qaeda in Syria. I did not join the Navy to provide air support to Al-Qaeda in Syria. The military is a bit upset, but John McCain, Lindsey Graham, and now Eric Cantor and John Boehner, they don't seem to care. Something needs to be done. But before we, get to that point, which will probably be next week, where we do something, regardless of if Congress authorizes it, I have to believe that something will happen, something will change where Congress will be on board with this. Congress just wanted to be asked, I think. I think they needed to be asked to continue the fraud that is our federal government, to continue the farce, the act, the play that's being put on in front of us, which is that the president is not a dictator and that somehow there is democracy or a democratic republic in this country. So I think they decided that they needed to have the president ask them. And once he asks them, I'm sure they'll probably give their blessing to go ahead and drop peace bombs. But let's look at a little bit of the facts around the entire situation. So when it does happen, we can look back and say, well, this is an absolute farce and a war crime, basically. From the Daily Record in Great Britain, revealed Britain sold nerve gas chemicals to Syria 10 months after civil unrest began. Yeah, this came out on Saturday. Turns out that the British government, or a British firm, was authorized by Great Britain to sell the Syrian government sarin gas. Yeah. Or how about this from the TurkishWeekly.net? Russia asks Turkey for info on sarin terrorists. Russia has called on Turkey to share its finding on the case of Syrian rebels who were seized on the Turkish-Syrian border with a 2-kilogram cylinder full of the nerve gas sarin. Yeah, Syrian rebels. This is June 6th. They were seized or caught with sarin gas, Syrian rebels, on the Turkish-Syrian border earlier this year. Boots on the ground. From the Telegraph, first Syrian rebels armed and trained by CIA, quote, on way to battlefield. The first cell of Syrian rebels... This is real, people. The first cell of Syrian rebels trained and armed by the CIA is making its way to the battlefield. We are now training Al-Qaeda terrorist cells. We've been doing it off the books for quite some time since we created them in 1979, but now we were doing it on the front page of newspapers. To those who say the war hasn't begun and we have not done anything there, we've been doing things since the beginning. For about 2.5 years, we've been involved either through NGOs, our CIA, or some other black ops organization. We've been aiding and abetting Al-Qaeda and affiliated forces in Syria for quite some time. And to just throw it in the face of anyone who pays attention to anything, we had pictures come out over the weekend of Secretary of State John Kerry dining one-on-one, well, not one-on-one, couple and couple, his wife and Syrian President Bashar Assad and his wife only 4 years ago. Tool of betrayal, John Kerry's dinner with Bashar. Turns out that Bashar Assad has met with John Kerry personally 5 times since he became president of that country. And it turns out many of our elected officials who are now beating the war drums were supporters of Bashar Assad. I believe that Diane Sawyer even sat down for a one-on-one interview with him some time ago to talk about Shania Twain and his affinity for technology, I believe it was. Yeah, people, this is what happens. You just have to pay attention to all of the news and remember it for the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, because if you do, you come up with pictures like this that really throw John Kerry's credibility into a tailspin, if you ask me. So we'll keep an eye on that, but clearly our government has supported them, and now they want to depose him. And finally, one final article about the Syria situation from naturalnews.com. I read this. I'm glad Mike Adams decided to put this into words. Bombshell, Syria's chemical weapons turn out to be sodium fluoride used in U.S. water supply and sold at Walmart. Revealed, government-led British company export nerve gas chemicals to Syria. In that article we covered earlier in the episode, it went over the chemicals sold that are used to make sarin gas, and one of them, yes, sodium fluoride. Sodium fluoride, a chemical that your municipality most likely pays thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to put in your drinking water. That sounds about right for the New World Order. But finally, I want to give you my take. My take is that everybody's on the take. Russia, China, Syria, Iran, Israel, they're all run by, New World Order, Illuminati, the powers that be. Some force, the devil, some force runs all of these powers, at least has a hand in everything. We had a hand in bringing the communists to power in all of the countries, or at least the bankers, the globalist bankers did. So if you believe that, as I do, then you have to believe that it's not as it seems, and this may not be as advertised. There's clearly some unrest in Syria, but how about this? What if this is all a manufactured event to draw to different sides of a battle line, the United States, Russia, and China, for the sole purpose of initiating the collapse of the U.S. dollar and the U.S. economy? Many, as I have believed that we are facing a collapse that should have already come, but the Federal Reserve has put it off for quite some time, but can't do it forever. So there's some sort of economic collapse coming. And I theorize, well, if you're the New World Order, if you're the people in charge, you want to know, you want to make sure that it happens on your time, on your watch, so you can gain power and reap the rewards from knowing when it happens. What better way than to get into a global conflict with China, and China to be nice to us and not, shoot nuclear weapons at us, and instead dump all of our treasury bonds onto the open market, collapsing our currency, and in turn collapsing the entire U.S. economy. If, say, you're the New World Order and you pull the strings on all sides, all you have to do is create a conflict, then tell China, here's when we want you to do it. They do it. You make a lot of money. You gain a lot of power, and, well, people die. People get poor. People get sicker. The world slowly and slowly devolves into a sheep-like population ripe for the picking. That's just what I'm saying. I personally think this is a distraction for the collapse that is inevitable, that they are simply accelerating so it happens on their watch. Rahm Emanuel said, never let a good crisis go to waste. The only thing better than taking advantage of a natural crisis is creating your own crisis. Our government, the New World Order, the globalist bankers are geniuses at it. They've been doing it for well over 100 years. And, well, I believe the devil's behind it, so it's been going on for eternity. And it ain't going to stop until we wake up and acknowledge the evil that we face in this world. That's all I got for you tonight. Jay-Z signing off saying God bless and keep your eyes to the sky.